if they get the chance. They were born in bloody circumstance. To go, leave me, run like you've never run before. A voice from the underground, given room to breathe, not but be drowned. So die if you get the chance. Better men than you've been, let this dance. To go, leave me, run like you've never run before. I have seen the worst, and there is nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me away. To go, leave me, run like you never did. No, believe me, run like you've never run before.
Good evening. Welcome to the Scottish Rugby Podcast. It is myself, John Anderson, in the hot seat tonight. Hope is the hope that kills you, they say. I think tonight's episode might be sponsored by that very phrase. But joining me on this epic journey of desperation, desolation, and self-pity is Craig Manson. Welcome, Craig.
Good evening. How are we doing?
I mean, after the weekend, suitably scunnered, my friend. But what's that in the back of my... Oh, right, move that. Something in the back of my headset. Suitably scunnered, but let's see. Maybe this session, this group therapy session will cheer me up. We are also joined, of course, by Rory Baldwin. Rory, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Not too bad, thanks.
Excellent. We'll see if we can fix that and get you into a suitable state of emotional, being an emotional wreck. Welcome everybody who's joining us tonight. Welcome everybody who's joining us on the podcast. If you're listening back to this, if you are here for the first time, congratulations, you're part of the party now. If you like what you're hearing and you want to give us a wee bit of support, you can head over to patreon.com/Scottish Rugby Podcast, where you can, for £3 a month, sign up for exclusive content, including our Hands in the Ruck section, where we'll cut a wee bit loose, because this first bit, if you've not been here before, it's family friendly, even despite Craig Manson's best attempts. It stays family friendly. So after the paywall comes down, all bets are off, and we tend to unleash a wee bit. So £3 a month, head over to patreon.com/Scottish Rugby Podcast, and if you can, give us a wee bit of support. You also get access to our super secret Facebook page, which has been an absolute delight for the last few days. There's a few like-minded characters on there who will join you in your despair for Scottish Rugby. tonight, I don't really know where to start. I mean, we could be rogue here, Craig, and we could just not discuss any of it, right? And just be like, do you know what? It didn't happen. It's all a farce, really. And we could just talk about something else. I mean, there's plenty of sports in the world we could talk about, surely. And we've done it before.
I thought about maybe thinking about watching handball, maybe netball. There's always, let me think. What else could well, I do like a little bit of baseball. Rory and I, have a chat about that.
Actually, I was teaching my daughter how to do the set in volleyball earlier on with a rugby ball. So that's maybe volleyball's my place.
You've ruined it. You've ruined it. You've said the word rugby.
Oh, right, okay, right. All bets are up.
We'll have to talk about it now.
Oh, fine. Okay, we'll come to it. I know this is what you're all waiting for anyway. Scotland, France, Six Nations. Where do we start? Let's start right at the start, Craig. Lastminute.com. Harry Patterson gets a phone call to say hey ho, or probably a tap on the shoulder. I don't know how these things work. To say hey ho, glad you've got your kit with you. If you don't, borrow some boots for somebody, because Steno's missus is away into labour and you are going to make your debut at fullback. Absolutely brilliant debut from the boy.
Yeah, we were talking before the game, and I was messaging, and both Rory and I couldn't. I'm sorry to speak for you, Rory, but I don't think we could hide our pleasure in the fact that he was getting a start. It's almost, no matter what anyone says, this is a young man who has played 7 professional games.
I think eight at that point.
8 at that point, and he came on. He has impressed to the point of his lack of his lack of self self-care is almost George Turner-esque. And he has had a few issues, had a couple of big bangs to the head playing for Edinburgh, etc. But no, I was really, really pleased for him. Really, really pleased for him, because he's done a fantastic job at Edinburgh, even for the small amount of time. And he was filling big shoes. You're filling shoes of Blair Kinghorn. When he's in Edinburgh, he's filling shoes of Blair Kinghorn and also Emiliano Buffelli. There's a lot of pressure on the boy's shoulders, but he did a very, very good job.
I think that's absolutely spot on. Rory, your take on Patterson, young man coming into the squad. This is a massive tick in the box of the Townsend approach of let's bring young players into camp and get them experience, because then they can go out and perform like that in their debut, surely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was planning to actually give him match time. I think he was just in the camp for experience. But I think Townsend said afterwards that he'd been training as the opposition 15, so he'd been filling in as Thomas Ramos. So I guess if you're good enough to pretend to be Thomas Ramos, you might as well be good enough to play against him. Yeah, I mean, as Craig said, he's not played that much for Edinburgh. He's looked confident. He's looked the part when he has, which we don't often see from the younger boys coming through to the program in Scotland. So that was refreshing, and yeah, kind of circumstances given him a chance, but he's taken it. So now when there's an injury to a back three player or a full back, people are going to be talking, well, Harry Patterson can fill in and do a job. We're not going to be thinking, we're suddenly, from talking about our depth being a bit thin in the back three, we're actually, we're not feeling too bad about things, especially once we get Darcy and Blair Kinghorn back. Obviously, Kyle Rowe as well has done okay. I would have liked to see him just pin his ears back and go for the corner of that and try score that try. Yeah. That the crowd wanted him to do. That would have been, well, it would have taken all sorts of things off everyone's plate if he'd done that. And he had a decent game on the wing. It was actually probably Duhan's quietest game, and yet still pretty much dominated France for most of it.
Well, that's the thing. We'll continue in the backs, just there, and thinking about the, as you say, the depth that's starting to be created. Between a couple of injuries, we've got a couple of longer term injuries, but as you said, Kyle Rowe done a job at full back. Certainly didn't look out of place. Patterson again, very, very much manner born. But Craig, England, Blair Kinghorn, if he's fit, comes straight back in, yeah?
Yes. I think we're in a situation now where I wasn't here last week, and so I couldn't really discuss Kyle Rowe. But he was good, but he was obviously playing in a position that he hasn't been training for.
Yep.
Against Wales, and then obviously Harry Patterson's been given the opportunity, and he looked at self-assured. However, got caught out once, and unfortunately, the one he got caught out on ended in a try. So, and I think that's where Blair Kinghorn is slightly different. He's now a seasoned Scotland player, an international player. He's now, no matter what anyone says, he's now playing for the world's best professional club, and he's playing regularly for them. So I think yeah, absolutely. So I think he brings a certain gravitas to the Scotland squad, and I think it's so. There's a really, really, really long answer to he'll be starting.
Well, to be
fair,
as
long as he gets through the weekend.
As long as he gets through this weekend, and that's the joy of playing in France, isn't it?
There's a few we have to worry about. I mean, the English clubs are not releasing their players either. Apparently this weekend, they're not releasing, but they're allowing the England squad players to stay in camp, but the Scotland squad players have to go back to their clubs.
Could we do what was it? It was Wales always used to pay a 50 grand fine, wasn't it, for George North to be released out a window? Could we, or George North and there was a couple of them used to get released. Could we not do that again and see if we could get just
come on now? Dodson wouldn't even be. Come on, he would, there's no chance that
we're too busy saving up for a lawsuit against World Rugby after the weekend. So I suppose,
or could we just see the Premiership?
Well, we could see the Premiership. Yeah. That's great. We've done World Rugby before, so I suppose the Premiership's next. On your point about Patterson, he did get caught out briefly in defence, but there's no defending a forward pass really. So good finish for the boy.
Oh, we're there already. Come
forward
on.
Passing a bit. There's a big list of grievances here that we will come to in due course. Craig, you mentioned George Turner as a person with a disregard for one's safety. How good would the odds have been on him being the first player to be pinged by the smart mouth guard and taken off for an HIA? I would not have even remotely been close to betting you on that one, because that was a guarantee.
No, that was it 101? That was you have to give the
bookies money to
give the bookies 100 quid to get a tenner. I think no. Obviously, the mouth guards are currently they're not something that they're not compulsory or mandatory. So, but I can imagine everyone just turned and looked at Jordan and said, "You're having one whether you like it or no." And he's like, "Oh, okay, fair enough." But yeah, and to be honest, I think it's one of the things that we will move forward with that will actually be a very, very good World Rugby actually doing something, or whether it's the Six Nations themselves that are actually doing something very, very good towards the players. So it's one of the.
What I want to know is, can the magical mouthguard detect where George Turner's head is in relation to, say, a try line or blade of grass, something like that?
Well, I'm sure we'll come on to that. Just have to laugh, though. So Turner, when he was going off, he looked bemused. He looked like, what's going on? So the sensor in the mouthguard impacts detected above 70 G and 4,000 radians per second squared. I don't know what that means, but 70G, I know what that means. That is F1 levels of impact. Like,
You're face be doing that
yeah,
if you were in Top Gun.
that is a huge impact. And he looked bemused. He was like, "What? Okay."
Well,
It's,
I think
crazy.
the guys on the BBC were trying to work out if they could see which contact it was that had caused it, and they reckoned it was probably about 5 minutes before.
Yeah.
So obviously it takes a wee while. So he'd forgotten about it by then.
It'd
Probably.
been 10 other tackles at high impact at that
Yeah.
point. Okay, dokie. So the game will come properly to actually analyse the game. I'm just doing individual players at the moment. The other person I want to speak about, Rory, we spoke earlier on about Harry Patterson's 8 games of professional rugby. Surprisingly, I saw the stat prior to the game. This guy hasn't got many more than that in terms of his Scotland career. Rory Darge, co-captain at the weekend, started very brightly, straight in with a turnover, I believe. How did Darge? Let's go for 79 minutes and 59 seconds of the game. How did Darge handle being captain of Scotland?
I mean, I don't even think you could hold the last 30 seconds against him. He was. I
wasn't going to hold it against him. I'm going to take it separately because I think
deal with it separately. Yeah, I mean, I think he was brilliant. You could see instantly the difference that he was making in terms of the pitch, in terms of the leadership and the captaincy stuff. It was, it wasn't that much different. Finn was still speaking to Nick Berry plenty, but yeah, in terms of just the way you could see the way that he was kind of getting the players kind of involved, geeing them up. Obviously, the fact that he's literally everywhere on the park at the same time. He seemed to be everywhere. You could see him. You can always watch. He's great to watch because you can always watch him hovering about, like you used to see Mish doing it, where they're just kind of biding their time from breakdown to breakdown, and then you can, just before he goes, you can go, right, he's going into this one, and he goes in and wins a turnover. But yeah, he was brilliant. Carried the ball well, tackled. Can't really complain. And I think, to be honest, you can see why he's given the captaincy shirt, because if he's playing like that, he's in the top 3 names on the team sheet.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. So let's kick the game off, Craig. It all started so well. Scotland, in the early comings and goings, certainly the first 20 minutes, I thought Scotland looked very comfortable, looked assured against a decent, France looked dangerous, but Scotland seemed to have the defensive capability to shut them out.
Yeah, that for me, that period of time was Scotland not in their own heads, just playing their game. Their defensive sets are looking stronger and stronger. Really, really happy with defence. The only time France were really looking, and the only time in the game that France looked like they were dangerous, were just off little things that people decided to do. Right, I'm going to do this myself. As a team, they didn't look like they were coming together. And I think when we could pretty much defend on most of that. So yeah, I think, but unfortunately, I think that good start then gave Scotland a little bit of a false sense of security, and we started to, instead of continually, we'll talk about further down the line, but instead the bravado came in, and then we decided, right, we're going to play everything, rather than start taking points, and so that's where, if we're going to label Scotland weak-minded, I think that's they rule their emotions, rule themselves a little bit more than other teams, and when they start thinking that we've got this, boys, come on, that's when things start to go a little wrong.
Well, Scotland's first score, of course, Rory, just shy of 10 minutes. A wonderful team try.
Yep.
Lots of backs involved, and Ben White get dotted down. I mean, every back involved in that justified why they're in there, and it was slippy conditions as well. The ball, it looked quite wet, and the skill level involved was extremely high.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was probably the most French try of any of the tries scored in that match. France would have been proud of that one too, and that just goes to show what we can do if we strike at the right time. I think the other chunks of the game were different approaches to not striking until you pick your moment. I guess we're used to seeing previous versions of Townsend Scotland who maybe strike too much or try too hard. Or we've got the, going back before that, we've got the side to side and getting nowhere. So I guess we'd probably rather scoring tries like that than the bad old days. But I think there's still maybe, certainly for the crowd, for people that were there to be entertained, there's a slight balance to be found of maybe playing a wee bit more rugby. I mean, don't get me wrong, they were very, for lack of a better word, kind of professional in their approach, which is not, we're not really used to seeing that from Scotland. As Craig said, they weren't in their own heads, but they were relaxed in what they were trying to do, and they were executing it well. And that's presumably where Townsend has been trying to get them to all these years. Is he's got a plan that he thinks works, and if they execute it, it does seem to work. But I think, yeah, there were. I mean, there were. You could look back across that game. There were mistakes that both sides made that almost led to tries. France had a couple of chances as well. They weren't as dire as they kind of are in our heads after the result, but I think that period before halftime is probably actually the crucial one for the result, as opposed to the periods at the final whistle.
That's beautifully segued in there again, Rory. That's what I was just going to say to Craig. Just before half time, France, a man down, Antonio goes to the bin. Scotland picked the scrum, which at the time I'll be honest, I was screaming for the scrum as well, because you've got your massive tight head for France in the bin, get a man on, create the overlap. In hindsight, they didn't get the points, but is that the right call? Would you say make that call again, Craig? And what was going on at that scrum where we got penalised?
Well, this is where, and you know me on this podcast, and everyone who knows me within coaching and playing rugby, I am a huge
there's a word to insert here.
Scrum nose.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm a scrum nose. But I'm a huge. I push play the whistle.
Yeah.
The referee is the same for both sides. Just play the whistle. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to bring the referee into this, and we are going to be discussing the referee a significant amount, I'm sure. I've never advocate is the word I was looking for. I'm an advocate of play the whistle. The issue we have here is twofold. First things first, and whether I'm sure I'll have an argument online with this regularly with a few people, but Antonio shouldn't have been off for a yellow. Antonio should have been off for a red. His arm was tucked, and he put his shoulder. Now, if it was a reckless challenge, an absolutely reckless challenge, and okay, they brought it down to a yellow because it's got into Fagerson's shoulder first, I think, and then through to the head. But that was a reckless challenge. His arm was tucked. He wasn't even trying to tackle him. He was trying to hurt him. That's the first thing. Second thing, Scotland had dominance of the scrum. They were painting the picture on a regular basis of full dominance to that. And what basically the French loose heads both were tucking in and pushing in on Xander Fagerson. Now, the big issue you have with Xander Fagerson, and every so often he's like a computer system, and he seems to be, you hit control, exit, delete, and he goes back to what he's originally programmed with, and his legs go fairly far back.
Yeah.
And any sort of twist in on him at times when he's under pressure or he gets hyped up, he goes to ground. And unfortunately, what Nick Berry had picked up was the scrum going down. I personally looking at that scrum, as we have been working with for all throughout that first half, we had scrum dominance, and usually with referees, they go with the dominant scrum. They are if you're overpowering the opposition scrum, 99.9% of the time, the decision will go to the attacking the scrum or the scrum that's dominating. So again, whether Nick Berry just decided, screw it, no, Nick Berry's a professional referee. That may be called into question later on, but in his mind, the picture has been painted that Xander brought the ground. Well, to me, it looked like Xander brought the scrum to the ground, but really, it was the loose head putting pressure in and boring in on Xander,
which is I mean, for the non-scrummagers amongst us, Rory, is the reason why scrums are lotteries and you should always avoid them and take 3 when it's on the table. Surely,
yes. I mean, they hadn't paid attention to the probably the first law of Scottish scrummaging, which is that you never take 2 in a row, because it doesn't happen. Craig's exactly right. With the dominance that we had,
yeah,
it probably was the right call. You're sitting there thinking, yeah, we got this. Things are going our way.
Yeah.
In the sort of out of context, it was the right call. In context, with the whole of Scottish history behind it, it was absolutely foolish to take 2 scrubs in a row, because the referee's going to give it against you eventually. And I wanted to see the dragon move again, because I don't think they did it. I don't think they did it right. I mean, I don't know what it was, but it didn't look like they did it right. And I wanted to see it again, the tap and go. I get that the scrum in front of the posts ties in a lot of defenders, and you would then have loads of space to pull off some fancy strike move. But that's only good and well if you actually get the ball back, which they didn't. And I think that was kind of, especially as they had a man advantage, they kind of failed to press it home then. And then they should have come back out and immediately looked to put the foot back on the throat in the second half. But for some reason, they didn't quite. And it all went a bit sort of wibbly wobbly from there.
We'll call this episode Baldwin's Law of Scrummaging, and that's your kind of, you can write a series of laws for us, Rory, based on, we've done the rules of being a Scottish rugby fan, but we could do some of the key Scottish rugby rules, such as never take 2 scrums in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it might simplify game management for them.
Yeah, well, mate, that's it. Send it to them.
Again, it comes to the fact that my Twitter handle is Scrum Champion, my Instagram handle is Scrum Champion, and you're deferring to Rory to about scrummage information.
It's not about the practicalities and the techniques.
Yeah, this is not about.
It's about history and fate and destiny.
I am this close to throwing my toys out the pram here.
Once you've seen things like Rory, once you've got those eyes like Rory with the kind of the veteran eyes, that that's the trauma that sits behind that face there of Scottish rugby lore, then I know you've been there, Craig, but Rory's been writing about it for a long time. I
have to be honest with you. When I listen to Rory on this podcast, he could put his arm around me and tell me that Pierre Schumann is rubbish and he should never play for Scotland again, and I would just accept it, because he's just, that creamy voice just hits me right in the feels.
It's just this microphone setup. I sometimes wonder if it's just like that the whole time, because I can't really hear what it sounds like. I'm basically Rutger Hauer in Blade Runner, but with like bad refereeing decisions.
He has seen things. He has seen things. He has
seen. We'll say, Rory. Early in the podcast, one of my friends jokingly suggested my voice was like audible chocolate. So it was. Yeah, I think he was joking, to be fair. But I will give you the actual compliment of that, Rory. You can be. I
could just hear him sitting there going, I have seen Narji Sneeman on fire on the outer rings of Ireland.
Something about the Tannhauser Gate.
Oh, well.
Okay, I now have to go and look that speech up and then rewrite it.
You do, absolutely next time out. Coming back to, so Antonio's in the bin. Scotland, a man up, failed to press any advantage home, Craig. Of course, the famous situation in the second half, France and Finn Russell in particular, playing a little bit of ping pong in the kicking game. As Townsend after the game has said that kicking without running after the ball should be banned. It resulted in a fairly farcical situation where Finn is perfectly entitled to stand still for as long as he wants until a French runner clears their players. What was your take on that? I know I've just taken you away from scrums and I'm now putting you into backfield kicking battles. But
I'm naturally
I know you're
happy.
versatile, Craig.
Still
I know
like
you're
law,
versatile.
it's still law chat.
Yeah, exactly. What was going on there, and how did you think it was? Did you find it frustrating, or were you just laughing along?
I was just giggling along because I know exactly what was going on, and there's a lot of here, listen to me blowing smoke up Mars. I didn't mean I'm allowed to say that on the non-Patreon bit? Okay, no need to time
New season, new rules.
check that one. Yeah, that's it.
That's it, yeah.
For basically, France were trying to push us into. We naturally go and play. France were trying in the second half. We were in the lead. We're in control. France decided, right, we're going to start hoofing the ball to you and asking you to play against them. What they were wanting us to do is take the ball, run at them, and turn the ball over, get a penalty, put it down into the corner, and then try and maul us over into the try line, or try and play in our 22. Finn recognised that and just thought, well, if you're going to kick the ball to me, I'm just going to hang on to it and stand here and then kick it right back to you. And we were playing a game that was, in my mind, what he was trying to do and what Townsend was trying to do, or whether it was Finn himself that had just decided he was not playing France at their game. And what we've always said, and I've always said on the pod, is that we keep going into games like South Africa. We're going to play South Africa and try and match them. We're going to do the same with France, etc. We're going to try and no. Don't take the rubbish. If they're going to start kicking the ball to you, trying to make mistakes and make you play, kick it right back to them. Because we had the dominance at that time. Don't get me wrong, it got a bit, and I absolutely agree. It's a law that needs to be changed. All you've got is us fat boys standing in the middle of the pitch going, crack on, boys. I'll stand here for a wee while and take a breather. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I really don't have a major. I don't have a major issue with it. What the issue I have is the fact that it needs to be knocked. The law needs to be changed completely, so that players have to retreat, and you'll get rid of it a little bit. But no, Scotland were just playing France at their game.
Fair enough.
Plus, you look at the guys on the other side. It's Ramos and Peno. Like, that if you keep kicking to them, eventually they're going to do something crazy, and it might work and it might not. I mean, you watch the game back, and there were a few times they kicked it to Peno and he sort of knocked it on or fluffed it. So from that point of view, it did kind of work.
Yeah, I think we'll bring up this comment just now. I'll just get your take on it. Billy on YouTube has said, what's the style this year? We seem to be continually trying new stuff rather than mastering one. From the fastest to the sturdiest and now the kickiest. I don't know if that's a word, but I love it. What exactly is Townsend trying to do? I'm going to absolutely plead I will completely step away from this because I have made my views clear on what Townsend is trying to do in the past. Guys, what's your view? What is the game plan this year, Craig?
I think I'm actually finding the game plan is far more, for me, the game plan for me is far more controlled. We're actually playing it more. But instead of the wide to wide, we've got some go forward, and then we're trying to bring, we're almost putting them into a false sense of security, if you know what I mean. I actually think we're the most settled performing team at this moment in time. We're able to adapt. But we seem to be in control. And Wales' second half, maybe not the right thing, but as far as I'm concerned, we do seem to be in control. Whether we get beat or not, we do seem to be a little bit more in control of what we're actually doing. which is a pleasing thing for me. But I really do think we seem to have an identity finally.
Well, speaking of being in control, Ramos obviously kicks the conversion from the Louis Billy Barrier. I think that's how it said. Try, which was, again, as I said earlier on, the pass in the run up to it was forward, but nobody looked at it. Typical of what was to come. So Ramos makes it a 2016 game to France, Scotland in that position, Rory, where we have to come back. It's all blood and thunder. We thought we had lost it. France done some France stuff, which that word might be different in about 10-15 minutes time when I review this on the Patreon, but France done France things. Finn got in the way. Scotland have got the ball, one final chance. We were in control, and then the ball went over the line. We all, yeah. Right, thanks and good night, guys. That's been an up. Yeah, we all know what comes next, but let's not go too much into it. The frustration for me, Rory, in this space, right? We know that Berry has copped out of a decision, really, by going, I've definitely seen it held up. You didn't see anything, mate. You were nowhere near it. But the frustration is the way the decision-making process and how it got essentially overturned by the TMO just from him going, it's been grounded, but let me give you one more angle. And it was like they were frantically looking for an angle. What was your take from all of it? And
it's weird because it's not a great look. I mean, Berry probably did see it grounded. He would have seen it. He would have seen it held up on the foot where it started, and he's not, for some reason, then not seen it carry on and go down. Whether it was his view was obscured or something, I don't know. So yeah, he's gone to the TMO for more confirmation. But the two of them have walked through it on the big screen, watching, going, okay, yeah. So I can see that after it comes off the foot, it goes onto the ground. That's pretty much on the ground. And at that point, everyone was like, all right, nice one. We've scored a try after all that. Well, that was kind of what we felt we deserved. And then, yeah, they seem to have walked it back because it wasn't conclusive. And this is actually something that they were talking about on the BBC pod earlier, that actually referees are told to look for compelling evidence rather than conclusive evidence.
Yeah.
And there was certainly compelling evidence that it was grounded, but that was obviously not enough for the two on the day. I don't know what you say. You can't say, oh, there was a phone call came in from Dublin and told Brian McNeice to change his decision, because that obviously didn't happen. They're not corrupt, they're not cheats, but something's gone wrong in the process. And unfortunately, there's not really a mechanism for them to award the outcome that everyone knows is pretty much the correct, apart from a couple of French players and the French coach, who, I mean, I don't know how Aldrit managed to see it, because he was probably getting treatment in the medical room at the time. And yeah, it was just, it left a bit of a sour taste in the mouth, because I mean, there were obviously lots of comparisons to Craig Joubert in the World Cup, but I mean, that decision screwed Scotland out of a chance. It didn't necessarily, it stopped. It gave the penalty to Australia, which they kicked to win the game, but it wasn't wasn't a cut and dry complete swing either way. They might have
missed
something
penalty,
that could have happened, but this was the try that was enough points to decide the game. It was either, if it was a try, game's decided for Scotland. If it's not a try, game's decided for France. And I mean, to be honest, I think it's Razi's fault, because I think he's with his nonsense on the Lions tour and his Jacko Johan videos and stuff. That's put a slight doubt at the back of Nick Berry's head about making a huge decision like that, because he's thinking of, I'm trying to think of the stereotypical French version of Jacko Johan or whatever, but he's like, oh no, they'll make a video about me, and
they'll make a video.
So it's possible that goes through the guy's mind.
Yep.
And so he says, right, I need the TMO to help me with. But then again, if he'd actually trusted his instincts, he wouldn't have ordered the try anyway. So
Well, that's the thing, and the TMO was there to, the reason we have television match officials in rugby is to aid on-field decisions. We know nothing's 100%, Craig, but if we're not awarding that try, what are we doing?
Yeah, but we're getting exactly what we asked for, and this is the problem. I've got 2 hot takes for you, John. Okay,
Go for it. I love this,
Yes,
Craig. Go for
yes.
it.
I'm not usually a hot take person. I'm usually pretty easy going here,
Yes.
but there's 2 things here. First of all, I'm an Edinburgh fan and I'm a Scotland fan, and one thing that we do all the time, whether it's Edinburgh or whether it's Scotland, is we run this battering on someone's door on a regular basis, and every single time we try to batter a door down, we end up getting turned over, or we end up scoring a try that doesn't get given. Right?
second law.
Okay, it's an absolute joke at junior level, under at all the way through from S1 upwards, when big contact is allowed, etc. You hit it up three phases and you move out the backs because you've sucked everybody in. We had 3 backs screaming for the ball, defended by 1 Frenchman. Okay? So on my side of things, that's the first ridiculous. We've got a 10 with the biggest bag of tricks in his back pocket that he is in the world. He's world renowned.
Yeah.
He doesn't look outside him, or if he does, what is he thinking? Because he could have easily taken that ball, stepped back a bit, taken that ball, kicked it over, and sent it over to Kyle Rowe, and he's in the corner. Whether it's a kick pass or a pass, right? That's the fun. And Finn isn't scared of a kick pass, as we have all seen many, many times.
And also, let's not forget, Craig, that's the second week in a row that's happened. They've gone the wrong way, pick it up the jumper when they should have flung it wide and made
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah. Absolutely, Rory. And Edinburgh do it on a regular basis, right? So it's the most frustrating style of rugby at times.
Yep.
Although I've just said that, we're settled and we're looking like we actually know what we're doing.
That seems like a new development, actually. Like I know you've seen Edinburgh do that, and I think Scotland of past have done that a lot. I feel your frustration, Craig, because I think white line fever, where we're doing this stupidity up through the forwards, I think that's creeping more into our game again. And I don't know if it's a coaching thing or what's happening, but it just seems like it's coming back in to Scotland's play and Edinburgh, and Glasgow are not immune from it either.
Yeah, and I firmly blame Exeter Chiefs, but that's a different story.
I love that.
I quite like blaming Exeter Chiefs. Anyway, second thing, coaches and fans have all shouted down the World Rugby and referees for try yes or no. We are giving the TMO and the referees too much power. We need to sort this out. So now the question is on field it's a try. No, sorry, we're giving the TMO too much power. The referees need to make the decision on the pitch. So it's gone from try yes or no to now on field try or on field no try. Okay. Where Nick Berry was now, yes, fair enough. I'll talk in a second about it, because I'm on a rant now, John.
That's okay.
Where Nick Berry was at the time, the ball's held up. It's clearly held up. You could see it being held up.
Yep.
Until but what usually happens is, I think that's held up. Hold on, guys. Whistle goes. Have a wee look. As the guys start getting up, it's clearly on the ground. The ball's clearly on the ground. I say it's a try. Prove me wrong. Okay. So that's the first thing. So on my side of things, I don't blame Nick Berry for the initial decision, because where he was positioned, the ball looked like it was held up. Okay. We're now at a situation where we're now saying, right, you must prove conclusively, or the other word that you used, Rory, that ball has been put on the ground. Unfortunately, where with that replay that everyone is playing, there is no ability to see ball, and grass. Okay? So you can't say it's 100% a try. So unfortunately, we have moaned, it's this butterfly effect. Referees are given this try or no try. No, we are giving the TMOs far too much power. Coaches, we're giving the TMOs far too much power.
Yep.
We get a law change, boom. Now Scotland, we've, that the referees should, this is a terrible decision. They went through the letter of the law, and the letter of the law gave us, no matter how stupid a decision it was, they have given us that decision because they followed the protocol.
Was it exclusively Scotland calling for the try yes or no to be ended, Craig?
Oh no! I'm not saying that. I'm saying that as a group we have asked for that, but also
as a sport.
As a sport. I'm talking about as a sport. I'm not blaming Scotland solely for this, but
No.
we are coaches, because now we've got Townsend coming out saying we need to change the law on this, we need to change this, we need to change that. Well, yeah, but a lot of these laws were in place before, and now we want to change it. We changed them, and then we want to go back to them.
It's when you look at these laws, it's always the secondary impact of the change, Rory, isn't it? Because professional sports, people are clever. People will find a way to get around things.
Like the thing with the kicking, you figure out a way to use it to your advantage, and then eventually that gets taken to extremes, and everyone looks a bit silly.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I still think it's a try, but that's a different story.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Like, I don't think anyone's. You're absolutely right in terms of the actual law. It purely comes down to whether there's a degree of interpretation used in it, and you're absolutely right with the way the law is set up just now. It probably shouldn't be that interpretation. So we've ended up with a result which, by all accounts, is the wrong result. Let's finish off our free episode. Just we'll talk briefly. Scottish Rugby Union obviously asked World Rugby for clarification, Rory. There was no indication that we were trying to sue anyone. Not yet, anyway, but it's come out earlier today. World Rugby are not going to justify that ask, and they're not going to say anything. So boys will be boys. Everyone gets the bonus, and everyone goes home happy, right?
Yeah, I mean, like World Rugby are never going to come out and throw their officials under the bus, because then they wouldn't have any officials.
They did with Joubert, though. They did say that a mistake was made.
Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. There's precedent, but that was a long time ago. It's changed a bit since then. I guess there's more focus on the officials and obviously on their mental health and stuff like that. So I don't think they were ever really expecting any response in any reasonable sense, but I guess they had to be seen to be doing something, and there was presumably nobody to sue, so the next best thing is to sort of write a strongly worded letter. So that's what they've done. I guess from our point of view, it kind of helps the team, it helps the fans to stay a bit angry, because now that England are on for the Grand Slam and going to win the championships, according to England, Scotland need a little bit. It would be lovely to see a little bit of fire coming from them, because this I've taken to calling it the unjustice just because I get loads of people correcting me saying unjustice is not a word, so that's what I'm going to call it. And talking about that, and it would be a shame if we let this kind of derail the tournament. So Scotland just need to get back on the horse, keep playing the clever, I guess, percentage rugby they can, and just and pick England apart if they can, and get back into it. And there's also somebody on Twitter offered to run a parallel league table for the tournament going forward, as if we had one, and then we'll see how we finish up at the end of the Six Nations.
I think anyone that's going anywhere near World Rugby, just give them a good hard stare and make them think about what they've done. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Should we just go over to Dublin and just stand across the street and stare at the office?
No, because the Irish Rugby will ask you to move because you'll be standing in their corridor.
Next to the Lions.
Yeah,
and the URC.
Can I before we finish to the general public? Can I answer one of the questions that was asked in the I don't know if you're going to finish up or not.
I mean, I'm going to at some point, but is this the question here from this the one you were meaning, Craig? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So Acid Casual over on Twitch. Yes, we are on Twitch.
Hello.
Has asked, can I ask a question for later, please? From my viewpoint, watching the telly, it seemed there were a lot of French fans. For those of us that can't afford to go to every game, but would like to go to one home Six Nations game a year, it's frustrating that so many away fans make it to Murrayfield when many home fans can't. I paid for a supporters club membership, but by the time I made it through to pre-sale queue, it was more or less down to single tickets. Craig, you've got an answer to this.
Yes. Don't give the SRU your money.
Correct.
Give your local rugby club your money. I have travelled to Italy, to Wales, to France, and to Murrayfield on a regular basis using my rugby club. All rugby clubs get an allocation of tickets to Murrayfield, and have the option to go to other Six Nation venues, and they get allocation of tickets. If you pay your membership to a local rugby club, you can be a social member. You don't have to be a playing member. You're supporting the rugby club in your local town, but also they will either send you an email or a letter, depending on how blazerish and old they are, and they will give you an option of filling in a form and saying how many tickets do you want to get for a specific game. Now, I'm sure with our club, I think the maximum you're allowed is 4. But we do it. I've got a group of friends, including Johnny McGinty. We go to games, at least one Six Nations game a year. If I was left to use the supporters club system or buy the ticket, I would never go to a game because I could never get them. And this has always been the way I've got my tickets. And not only that, but a percentage of your ticket money that you pay to the rugby club is kept by the rugby club. And it gives them a little bit of support too.
Absolutely right, Craig, and a good place to end. Acid Casual, if you're wanting to not be a casual anymore and want to go and find your local rugby club, obviously just get in touch and we can steer you to the appropriate channels. You can find out how to join, and that goes for everybody who's listening. If you're not sure who your local rugby club is or you want to go along, give us a shout, and I'm sure we might know somebody who knows somebody who might know a friend of a friend. So we'll do our best to help everyone with that. But for now, we're going to head on over to our Patreon section now. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope some of you fans that are joining us today saw the OnlyFins special that went out for the France game. That's something we do. That's part of the Patreon offering. So, if you like that and you liked what you see and you want a wee bit more, just head on over patreon.com/Scottish Rugby Podcast and give us some support. But for now, it is goodbye from me and goodbye from Craig and Rory.
Bye.
Goodbye.